As journalists and television hosts, scripts are a lifeline. Each newscast, each story, it all revolves around a script.
But now it's time to go unscripted. That means we're not just going off script, we're throwing out the script altogether.
Each week, we're joined by fellow Farm Journal hosts and editors to peel back the layers on stories we've shared throughout the week.
Unscripted. It's real, it's raw, it's entertaining, and it's your chance to meet the personalities behind the personalities. I'm Tyne Morgan.
And I'm Clinton Griffiths. Welcome to Unscripted.
Clinton, it is November 1st.
Oh,
do you know what that means?
I know. Merry Christmas. You're starting your decorating?
Game on. So that was my question for you. When do you start? Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. When does Mary Beth start decorating for Christmas?
You're on the nose on that one. Well, generally speaking, she likes to get through Thanksgiving before starting for Christmas. She doesn't do Halloween and then do Christmas. She likes to take her time, enjoy a fall harvest decoration and decor, and then switch over to Christmas, which, you know, we tend to leave up a little bit longer than most people, kind of through Epiphany, as you get into January a little bit. But once in a while, it's March.
I used to be, day after Thanksgiving, that's when you decorate. And then with the girls, it's like, then you really don't get to enjoy it as long because, right after Christmas, I mean, by New Year's Eve, my Christmas decorations better be down.
Well,
So
you got
anyway,
it.
But I'm not right up, like, it's not like today. I want to enjoy the Thanksgiving and things, but we usually travel for Thanksgiving. So I decorate a little bit early, but that's just what I was wondering. But you know what?
What?
I was wondering this morning because you can make a killing off of dressing up as Santa Claus. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. But,
and it is a process.
I've been working on the physique here for a few years, so I'm thinking maybe a couple more years I'm going to have it down.
Not that.
I should be able to jump in there.
It's more than that. It is more than that. You gotta we have a guy in town who does it at Union Station in Kansas City. So high dollar, right? Mm-hmm. He starts growing out his beard. Well, he cuts it right after Christmas the year before, and then lets it grow out the whole year. He starts bleaching his hair. So it's a process. He starts bleaching his hair.
Oh, I mean, gosh.
I'm telling you, it's not just a put on a fake beard. And no, if you want to be a legit Santa and make a killing, Tyne, it is a year-long process.
Tyne, you say a killing. I want to know what's that scratch look like. Well, what's that change look like? What we got on that?
I can't reveal what he
Come on, we got a couple $100 a week and an appearance.
What
we got a couple
he's retired
thousand.
And he cannot truly report that income because he's retired. He doesn't want to lose his retirement.
Santa getting paid in beef jerky and dollar bills under the table. Here we go.
Anyway, but you know what I was thinking? You know who would be the best Santa?
Who's that? Oh, our guest today?
Oh.
Our guest today, Jimmy Dobbs.
He's just jolly all the time. Let's bring him in, Jim. He always has a smile on his face.
Hello. And I wouldn't even have to dress that much. I'm ready right now. In
got
fact,
the red on already. You're good to go.
A true story. The people across the street from me, when their kid was really little, saw me in my driveway and yelled out, "Santa Claus." True story.
Seriously, Jim?
It could always be worse, Jim. They could have yelled out other people, like the Grinch or other things. I mean, so it can always be worse. Santa it's not the worst thing someone could call.
But my favorite holiday story, real quick here.
Okay, let's do it.
On Easter, I got up and went to early mass, and my parents had hid the eggs and everything outside, and I picked up all of them. And my sisters, not good. Because when they got home, I had 3 baskets full of eggs. I shouldn't have done that, I guess.
I need to clarify real quick. Santa is real, okay? We know Santa's real, but I'm just saying Santa's helpers because he doesn't have time during the holidays.
He doesn't have time to hit him. He's got stuff to make. He's managing a supply chain. We know this.
Jim, I know you have a lot of time on your hands because you're not busy, but I think you should do Elf on the Shelf, where every day you dress up as an elf and you're in a different position and take a selfie and post it on social media and we can follow your journey. A farmer did that last year, right, Clint? It was hilarious.
That's so funny. See, Jim, the kids now have Elf on a Shelf. See, when we grew up, we didn't have Elf on a Shelf. And so there's all these other exciting holiday traditions that we keep enjoying and being, part of our everyday life here. When does the
enjoy.
elf show up at your house, Tyne?
Well, apparently December 1st, because Kinsler told me yesterday she can't wait till December 1st. Because apparently that's when the elf shows up.
Not November 1st? That's good.
Nope. December is
Okay.
what she told. She goes, I wish it was December 1st. And then I put 2 and 2 together. So, you know what is like Christmas for Jim Wiesemeyer?
I think I know. It's
Election
all,
day.
yeah, it's almost like
Election
a
day.
holiday. It's a
Yeah.
We are
holiday
just a
for
few
Jim.
days away from Jim's Christmas.
And I had to vote early because U.S. Meat Export Federation has me giving a speech the day after election in Tucson, Arizona. So I'm going to be at all
How dare they do that?
Election.
John Harris,
Yeah.
how dare you ask him to
Oh,
travel
you're-
on election day?
You're gonna come in all grizzled. You're not clean shaven. You have bags under your eyes.
Yeah, because it could be a
ruffled
late night.
shirt,
But
and all
Jim-
disheveled. And you're gonna
And
have
then,
to
but
go
they
in there
asked me
and
for
tell
an update 2 days later on Friday, so
Yeah.
they know.
and then they're gonna be like, "Hey, so what happened last night?" And you're gonna tell them, "We don't know yet."
We don't
Okay,
know.
nope, stop right there. Stop right there. We're going into our first segment because that's exactly what I want to get from Jim Wiesemeyer. Let's talk
Okay.
some tea. Jim, we all remember when you actually stayed up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., waiting for the election night.
Or
getting those
11.
results.
Or 11.
Or 11. Maybe that was when I was in Vegas that one year that it was 2 a.m. Anyway, but we stay up and wait for the results, go to bed, knowing who's the next president, knowing who's in control of the Senate, knowing who's in control of the House. Jim, how many days do you think it's going to be before we have the final results?
Well, perspective. Last time we had to wait until Saturday until Pennsylvania was called. So I visited when I was out in Colorado Springs this week at a SEPA event, crop insurance agents. David Wasserman from the Cook Political Report was there. And so we huddled together several times. And he told me early barometers could be on the presidential election, North Carolina and Georgia. If they were to swing rather decisively for Trump, that would signal that we could get bona fide results sooner than most people think right now.
Okay, so you're watching that as kind of a bellwether then. Of
Absolutely.
a couple early indicators that maybe we're going to get some sort of answer during the night. But these polls are so close, Jim. I mean,
Well-
at this point, they're neck and neck.
And
They
Jim,
all the swing states are, but he told the audience, this is perspective here. Now, I heard him 2 weeks before in Kansas City, where he gave Trump 51% odds of winning. Now, that's very close, okay? But then in Colorado Springs to SEPA, his number was 60. So he went up because Harris had a bad October, he said. She just had a bad October. Yeah.
well,
So
and
we'll
Jim,
see.
that leads into my next comment because I do follow him on X, and I know you and Dave are friends, and he retweeted or reposted, sorry, a post from back when it was Twitter in 2020 on October 29th that said 5 days from the election day, it's clear who's the favorite, and it's not Trump. Okay, that was 2020.
That was Hillary.
He retweeted that just a couple days ago and said 5 days from election day, it's not clear who's the favorite. Once again, this thing is close. So he said this thing is close to all of his followers on social media, but you're telling us that he actually said it was 60%
Yes.
Trump when you saw him.
Yes. That is bona
Okay.
fide for real.
Jim. Oh, I was just going to say, I was just going to ask Jim, what gives him that increased confidence other than a bad October? But we have had a couple of things with the whole garbage back and forth, conversation over the last 4 days.
Yeah.
That have kind of maybe started to filter through. But I mean, what gives him the confidence that it's a 60?
He's a number cruncher. David is such a interesting person, younger, very smart. And by the way, he's on in the background on election night for NBC. He's part of their decision desk. So you won't see him. Yeah. He number crunches all night on it. So he knows what counties to look for. In fact, he's got an article out today. I think it was released yesterday, citing the key counties to watch for the House races. because he used to be the House editor there. But he won't be seen on election night because he's busy crunching the numbers. So that's what he comes up with, Clinton. He looks at certain counties like, Bucks County in Pennsylvania for the presidency. And Trump doesn't have to win those counties. He just has to narrow the traditional gap that Republicans usually get. So he looks at all of that. Now, he's not perfect all the time. No election prognosticator is. As you mentioned, he called Hillary and he was wrong.
No. That was 2020. So he was right.
Oh, okay.
It was 2020. Yeah. So he was.
Yeah, well, he learned from
right,
2016.
the year before. Yeah. Okay, but when you say he's young, what is your definition of young? Because in my head, I didn't think he was young.
He's in his early 30s.
No.
Yes.
Jim, that is not what I had in my head. Every time you mention his name, that is not what I had in my head.
Yeah, he's in his early 30s. Just had his second child. Yeah.
Well, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So, Jim, set us up. We're a couple of days out. What happens here as we get ready for Election Day? We've had this huge surge in early voting, right? So a lot of people have already gone to the polls. What are you looking for or watching here over the next 2 days?
Okay, let me give you perspective on early voting, not mail-in, early voting. Now, Republicans historically, especially since Trump several years ago, really downplayed the importance of early voting. He has since changed. I went in and I looked at what percent of Republicans versus on the Democrats typically vote on Election Day, and Republicans far greater than Democrats vote on Election Day. Now, historically, about 10% of those who wait until Election Day, for whatever reason, sickness, bad weather, just don't end up voting. So this year, more Republicans have voted early. So that's a little notch up that they could gain some key votes in some key states by just simply voting earlier.
Just to keep them from tripping themselves up.
What is the surge though in early? So I'm trying to go over. I was supposed to go last Friday, didn't make it because I got too busy with work. I'm trying to go over lunch today. Clint is trying to go do early voting over lunch today, and I typically have because both of us are typically traveling. Unfortunately, during election, so we just I've voted early in the past. But what is the surge this year? Because everybody's saying that the reasons are plenty. You need to vote early as far as the GOP goes. I've seen so many encouraging others within the GOP party to vote early. Why?
Well, maybe because of the statistic I said. If you put all your eggs in one day, I'm going to guarantee you all those people will not vote. It tends to be a lot longer lines. I know we had in Leesburg, Virginia, where I voted early, they said they had about 1,500 a day there going in. Wow. Yeah, 1,500 a day.
Can I let you in on a little secret? This is why you move to the middle of nowhere, okay? Because then you can go in, and there's never that big of a line.
You know what else is
faster? Parking spot.
You know what else is faster, Tyne? To get to go to the DMV. You can also go there and just go right through, no problem.
Hey, Jim, I could probably vote today. I don't smoke, but if I did smoke a pack of cigarettes, and still be done quicker than you were when you voted.
Tell you another tidbit story. I was in this, the airport. At Colorado Springs, and a farmer who participated in the conference from South Carolina came up to me. And he said he listens to the program, and I thanked him and all that. But he said his mother, when she went to vote in South Carolina, I've got the county, voted straight ticket. Now, the way they do it was a button or something that you picked, and she picked Republican, but then it switched to Democrat.
Oh, my goodness.
So she called over a person, and they did it 2 more times, and it flipped to Democrat each time. So she eventually had to vote every single candidate rather than flip the switch to vote a straight ticket. Now in Virginia, we don't have it that way. We have to fill out every circle.
We don't have that.
Every circle. Yeah. So that was interesting. And Brian Grady of Pro Farmer said he saw a story that very similar one in Kentucky. Yeah. Now I'm not signaling anything there. Just things can go wrong. Things can go wrong.
Well, and it's just, there feels like there's just so much pressure this year. And I know, we still have the mail-in ballot issue but option for a lot of places. And so, there just feels like there's so much pressure at the polls right now to get it right and have it be correct. And everybody's kind of on edge when they go in to do it and watch, which to a certain extent, I'm okay with. For me, I want it to be right. Everybody's vote should count no matter how they vote. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
And so, if it takes a little bit of time, or if you have to go in and fix something or adjust something, then you should take the time to get it right. 100%. But it just seems like there's just so much pressure there this year to really nail it down and make it work.
I remember in 2016 when Trump won, I was given a speech again, election day. I mean, on the day following in Springfield, Illinois. And I told the audience when I first started that, frankly, I wasn't feeling well because everybody told me the night before that if Trump won, it would be the end of the world. So I celebrated.
That's when I was in Vegas at a dairy conference. And the whole entire town of Las Vegas was in mourning. And I mean, Jim, I got picked up by an Uber. And that guy, you would have thought that his whole family had just disappeared because that's how sad he was. And then there's all these dairy farmers partying at Trump Tower. Like it was just like they're the only ones in Las Vegas that were excited. Okay, before we get into what the Sigma, let's get into some results. The Ag Economist Monthly Monitor, this last month and this month, we asked a question about the presidential candidates and which one would be better for certain policies, right, Jim? And this is something we talked to you about months ago when we asked, and you asked the question, which presidential candidate would be best for agriculture? And when you look at it across the board, you really have to narrow it down by issue. So Zach, if we could pull up the full screen, this is hot off the press, not even on AgWeb yet. The results from the October Ag Economist Monthly Monitor, which is a survey of nearly 70 ag economists. We asked the question, which presidential candidate will be more effective at implementing policies to help tame inflation, will provide more certainty on farm policy and crop insurance, is more likely to support policies that benefit biofuels. When it comes to taming inflation, 54% said Trump. When it comes to farm policy and crop insurance, 62% said Trump. And when it comes to policies that benefit U.S. biofuels, 54% said Harris. First blush, Jim, you look at this, what do you think?
I think that echoes what I personally think and what I'm hearing. On the biofuels one, I don't think that's going to be up to Trump. It's going to be up to lawmakers, especially with the 45Z program for sustainable aviation fuel. And even though Trump may have proclivities against some of these tax incentives, more than a few Republican lawmakers have come to support the 45Z program. So I think that would temper, that poll result. As far as foreign policy and crop insurance, I would be even higher because the last few years, the Biden administration has gone wonky when it comes to foreign policy. The underserved, but they have looked the other way on production agriculture, and that would change under Trump. As far as taming inflation, I think it could be a jump ball there because of the tax cuts. Most economists are thinking that some of the spending by both candidates, by the way, will actually increase inflation.
Interesting. Jim, as we talk about, some of the biofuels stuff and the farm policy conversation, I just think it's really interesting. I know from a Trump perspective, there are questions about his support. I mean, he's obviously always said drill, baby, drill, right? That's been part of his mantra, lowering fuel costs. But there's been so much business investment into the biofuels industry, which I think if that conversation is had with him, then he'll start to understand, we have an investment here. There's alternatives. There are ways to use this. It's part of the blend. It's not singling out one or the other. It's using it all at our disposal as a way to lower some of the costs of fuel or what have you. And so I really feel like maybe there's an opportunity to talk investment with him. But I think the Biden-Harris administration has really put so much money in grants. And I mean, we're talking millions and millions of dollars that have been invested into just a number of these kind of biofuels and climate smart programs. It will be interesting to see if that changes or if Harris and her policy continues those.
But right
Well,
now,
when I talk to top producers out there, it's one thing is clear on the differentiation between Trump and Harris, it's tax policy. World of difference, because farmers like that 20% pass through. They like Trump's policies regarding estate taxes, less rather than more for Harris. The corporate tax, which would affect business and investment if you go up to 28% from 21%, which is now under Harris, and Trump wants to go down a little bit more on that. But the capital gains taxes, that's big. When you talk to farm country, productive agriculture, those are the things that I'm told.
but Jim, right now, 45Z and this biofuels tax credit and not having answers on that, that is a complete disaster. Who's responsible for not getting, like, not saying, okay, is this tax credit going to happen next year? Are we going to pass it through? Or, what this guidance around 45Z? Because Jim, we are having some major soybean processors right now slowing the buy of soybeans, possibly idling plants because they don't have guidance and they don't know if that tax credit's going to be there next year. Who are we waiting on to provide these answers? Because the fact that, a few years ago, we were saying we could need X number more acres of soybeans to fulfill this demand. And now we're having these soybean processors saying, actually, we're going to have to idle plants at the end of the year if we don't have this tax credit next year. Mind blowing to me, Jim.
Yeah. And they're sending more product to Canada to process as well.
Well, we're importing cooking oil here, which is, what are we doing?
There's a dual.
Oil, it's okay. It's all used. We're good.
That's a sensitive subject in the U.S. ag sector because of the users, so that you wouldn't have enough supply to fulfill some of the goals of the biofuels, to be blunt on that one.
Sure.
Okay.
I understand.
And Vilsack, much to his credit, has said, hey, you better be careful. If you restrict used cooking oil for this program, it gives the opportunity for other countries to restrict some of your products. As far as why it's taking so long, I have two easy answers. It's up to the Treasury Department and the IRS because it's tax incentives. They just don't know agriculture. Now they've said now that we should get the final rules by the time the Biden administration ends. Give me a break. And what you said, Tyne, is exactly correct. Companies are starting to pull back their investment plans. They don't know the rules. So we have to know whether
idling production.
Yeah. We have to know whether corn-based ethanol is going to comply. Farmers want to know because Vilsack a couple of years ago said these programs are going to be could well be the next revenue stream for agriculture. They liked it at the time, but now they want proof. And I don't blame farmers. They have Dumbo ears waiting for some of these rules and regulations. And it's already November and it takes effect January 1. And these things are not easy to comply with.
No.
Oh yeah. When I was out at a veg oil conference a couple weeks ago, wherever, I can't even remember now. And this was a big question there that I got. When are we going to get the final rules and regulations?
Jim, it's interesting. So today on Ag Day, we had our College Roadshow at South Dakota State University. And one of the stories we did there was talking to a couple of researchers who are actually trying to put a number on greenhouse gas emissions. And believe it or not, the number they've been using ain't great. Okay? Because
Color me shocked.
I know. So before the science was, and this is accepted, and they all agreed to it, and it is what it is, but they would take a static chamber out there, they'd open it, and they'd close it. And they either measured once a week or they measured once a day.
Once a week or once a day?
And I think traditionally they used it as once a week in an environment, measured it, opened it, shut it, then measured the gases and what the composition was in that chamber once a week. And so that's the number that they've been using as far as emissions from the soil based on farming practices of what they say happens on the farm. Well, this research, they're using like 15 to 20 sensors out there. Each of them costs $300,000 a piece. And then they have multi-million dollars of other equipment in this lab to test the soil. And they are actually testing, and they're doing it where they have a chamber that closes 6 times a day, takes 900 samples each time, and then they're summing that and then using it for a year. and they're doing it based on management practice. And so, but they're, it takes time to collect all that data. But we're going to get real data back. And that's, some of that is a grant, some of that is from commodity like groups that are giving them money to do this, because and what they found a couple of things so far. One is farmers are actually doing better than what the science has said they're doing. So, like, for instance, right? So, like, nitrous oxide, which comes from nitrogen, and it's what volatilizes out of the soil. They say it's traditionally like 1%. Well, they're finding it's half that. So, like, all of these policies have been set on a standard that we're still trying to put a real number to. And I think over time it'll get better, but it's just interesting. It's interesting how all of that will change over time. Now, we should do the work, right? Because farmers are finding out that the management practices they've already adopted are better and are doing the job that they asked them to do, right? Their erosion is down. The soil organic matter is up. And this is South Dakota, right? And so, like, all of those management practices they've already chosen to do are doing a better job. But at the same time, you have to build policy based around real numbers, and we're just now starting to really collect those numbers.
My gut tells me that part of the reason why we're waiting is it may not be good news for corn-based ethanol. So from a political standpoint, they don't want to announce that. Now, that's conjecture, okay? Two is that I do know, and I've been told, Vilsack is really fighting hard behind the scenes to prop up corn-based ethanol in better numbers, and I applaud him. I applaud him for that. It's also important to point out to the listeners and viewers, if Trump were to be president, he has the opportunity to change those rules and regulations after he becomes president if he doesn't like them. So don't give up, even if you get some of the rules and they're not as farmer friendly as people want, they could be changed.
Okay, let's real quick, because we need to get to what the Sigma. But before that, Zach, can you pull up the question about trade? Because this one was much different than the other two responses. And this was the Ag Economist Monthly Monitor that we did in September. Okay, so that was the month prior. And then we followed up with the other questions. But would a Harris-Trump administration help or hurt trade? 55% said that a Harris administration would hurt, and 45% said help. 86% said a Trump administration would hurt. 14% said help. No surprise here. We have to go back to the trade war. There's some questions about, well, are we going to just go back to the drawing board for USMCA? There's been some frustration that maybe some of these countries aren't holding up their end of the bargain. But I want to go to the farmers' response, because AgWeb then, okay, this is our monthly monitor, but AgWeb did a survey of farmers, and more than 4,000 farmers answered this survey, Jim. Okay. And the responses did not surprise me, because I don't know if Zach can pull up the results or not from that AgWeb survey, but the majority of them in every single category said that Trump would be more favorable. So which candidate do you think will provide more certainty on foreign policy, is more likely to expand trade, is more likely to support policies that benefit biofuels? I mean, just go down the line here. And it's more than 70% of farmers that said Trump was the better candidate for that. Versus Harris, that's in the 20% range for all of these. And I had an economist call me after, and there was a lot of talk among economists after this result was then compared next to the trade question that we asked of economists. And economists were concerned that this is going to create more of a divide between farmers and between economists, because it shows that they're not on the same page. But Jim, this doesn't surprise me. And when we ask farmers this question, they are going to have political bias. When we ask economists this question, we are asking them to take their personal bias out of it, take the politics out of it, and just look at it straight from a numbers economist standpoint. So this really didn't surprise me.
Here's what I hear from farmers. When we had the U.S.-China trade war, the Trump administration, via taxpayers, provided $28 billion in payments. Farmers remember that. Now, they just assume that Trump will do something similar. They may or may not be correct there, because if you have an across-the-board tariffs, that becomes an issue. However, farmers sincerely believe they don't like it. However, they think that we're being patsies in the U.S. trade environment. And they're probably correct. Two is that they think Trump's going to use the threat of substantial tariffs as leverage to negotiate to get some changes in individual countries. They're probably more correct than economists there. Three, when they see the graphic that shows we're in the third consecutive year of record agricultural trade deficits, 42.5 billion for next year, they say, wait a minute, something's wrong. Then in my speeches, I'm trying to be brief here, I connect dots. I said, Vilsack says mostly this is a result of a strong dollar. We've had strong dollar before, but also our dramatic increase in imports of horticultural products, fruits and vegetables, etc. That got me to thinking, and I had a lot of California people that I talked to, and they said, let me tell you why that is. We cannot be competitive now because of our regulations here in California, because of labor issues, the price, and etc. So it's our domestic policies that is exporting our whole horticultural exports to countries like Mexico and Peru. Californians will tell you Peru is investing in their port facilities, and other countries are too. Look what we're doing. The international ILA, or longshoremen, is dictating that we put the governor on investments in robotics. Those are the reasons why people should discuss our trade policy. It's just not price. It's regulations, it's labor, etc.
Cost of labor. Chip said on the show, Chip said on U.S. Farm Report this weekend, labor here in the U.S., so in Mexico, they make more in the U.S. in an hour than they do in a day in Mexico. Put that into perspective.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's what you're competing with, and our farmers have to be so much more efficient at what they do. And they are, because they have competed traditionally, but we have to be that much more efficient with the land, with our labor, the way that we farm in order to compete and ship our product all over the country. And at some point, these places start to catch up a little bit, right? Like they start to catch up. And here's, to me, you start to look at it and you say, okay, Peru's investing, Mexico's investing. At what point do they build out their infrastructure enough to take more share from the U.S.? And I think it feels like that's some of what we're seeing to go along with the labor.
And that's why you've seen the focus of economists and others saying, okay, then we got to increase our domestic utilization of our crops. And that's why the 45Z program is so important. But if you have a governor on it, it leads to frustration. But bottom line, to end this one time, farmers and ranchers think that Trump and his people, probably Bob Lighthizer, who used to be U.S. Trade Representative, will come back in under any Trump 2 administration. They think that they'll better deal with this issue and force some changes outside this country to get it on hopefully a more level playing field.
It feels, Jim, like we're talking more you tell me if I'm characterizing this correctly, more fair trade than we're talking free trade these days.
Yeah, like there's no such thing as free
fair
trade.
Access, not necessarily free access.
Yeah, reciprocity. Trump's word is reciprocal. And here's what I tell audiences, and then they clap. Let me just give you one example. Farmland purchases. You have the example of China buying farmland around North Dakota. I know that's stupid because of airport security, but I'd say a simple question. If you're in a country, can we buy farmland in China? I don't think so. So why would we allow them to buy farmland here? And I usually get the audience to clap when I say that. So that struck home. Why do we allow countries to purchase our good farmland here if we're not able to purchase farmland in their country? Reciprocity.
And Clinton, real quick on the tariff note.
Yes.
We focus a lot on corn and soybeans and how much we are dependent on exports, okay? But when you look at agriculture and how diverse, you can't leave out some of those producers in California. You go talk to a wine grape grower in California and they will tell you they want tariffs. You have this foreign wine that is flooding the market. They are having to leave grapes unharvested this year because demand has dropped a little bit and we have cheap imports that are flooding the market. They want tariffs. And so I just want to step back and say, yes, for row crop farmers, you look at it, we are reliant. But if you look at agriculture overall, there are actually some producers that are asking for more tariffs. And there are, and I know unintended consequences, you have to look at all of that. But you ask any wine grape grower in California, and they will tell you that these cheap imports have to stop.
You're absolutely correct.
No, we didn't talk a lot about what a Harris-Walz administration would do on trade. And I think, Jim, you tell me if I'm wrong here, the way I read it, is that it will be kind of what we've already seen as far as trade goes.
Yeah, continue boring, moribund trade, protectionism. They're both protectionists, Trump and Harris, but just more of the same. No new trade agreements of any sort. Yeah, that's not, and that's what you hear from analysts in this town from both political parties, that they don't like the Biden-Harris trade policy.
Well, let's jump over, Jim, and talk about some of we're getting short on time here, so we're going to hustle through a couple of things. But let's get through some of the most head scratcher type of moments from the last week or so, and we call that What the Sigma. All right, Jim, a presidential candidate in a garbage truck. I didn't think I'd see that, but here we are.
Savage.
Does that have the impact he hopes?
It does. But, I think from the surveys that I've had election people that I monitor say his trip to McDonald's really scored.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big
that
time.
let's move into that though, because we had RFK Jr. We have a little video that we need to share. After that trip to McDonald's, he mentioned that he would like to see French fries, saying that that's not what's making America unhealthy. It's not the potatoes, okay? My husband works for a potato company, so I'm sure he was glad to hear that. It's not the French fries itself. It's not the potatoes. It's what they're fried in. And he wants to see us move back to being French fries fried in beef or in beef tallow instead of these unhealthy oils, and saying that when you look at the food pyramid, it is based on fraud from the get-go, and oils are not healthy for you. We need to get back to healthy flat fats, and that's going to make America healthy again. But his entire premise here, that's the good news. But we're also hearing some proposals that he wants to do away with chemicals. And, he thinks that corporate farms have a leg up, and he wants small and medium-sized farmers to have some advantages here. So can we roll that beautiful bean footage, Zach?
Now consists of ultra-processed food. We're going to change that. We're going to give farmers an off-ramp from the current system that destroys their health, wrecks the soil, makes Americans sick, and destroys family farms. We're going to rewrite the regulations to give the smaller operators a break. We're going to encourage sustainable, regenerative farming that can build soil and replenish aquifers. We're going to ban the worst agricultural chemicals that are already prohibited in other countries. And we're going to remove conflicts of interest from the USDA dietary panels and commissions. I've seen some of what America's most innovative regenerative.
Okay, so what makes this
Talk
important?
Us through that, Jim.
Yeah, well, real quick, what makes this as important for anyone that's not up to date on it is he claims that Trump has said, if I get elected, I will give you control of USDA. I will give you control of some of these health agencies. That is what he claims. And these are some wild, crazy ideas out there, Jim. I mean, do you think if Trump gets elected, would any of that actually fly?
If he's put into to a position that needs Senate confirmation, he won't get it. One.
Oh.
Two is that as long as it's narrow corridors, some of what he said, okay. But when you get into his anti-biotech, and he's been anti-chemicals that farmers need, then you got a problem. The Washington Post has a big story today saying he says he's going to be the czar, the health czar under any Trump administration. You got to remember he's a Democrat at heart. And these are a number of these are democratic principles, right or wrong, mostly wrong. But he does have some elements in the food area but not when it comes to production agriculture. And Trump has already said he'll rein him in if he has to. So I'm just going on that he needs RFK Jr. right now, he thinks, for a couple of states, of the swing states. And then he'll probably, if he does win, put him in as an advisor that you really don't listen to that much. That's what I hope. And there are a lot of them in any administration where they're just put in the corner, nice view of DC, but that's about it.
Well, and I think, Jim, you start to talk about changing policy, right? So if you get rid of some of the tools that we use to, maintain yields, you start talking like, hey, we're going to get rid of hormones in milk production or ractopamine in some of our pork production, et cetera. All of a sudden, then you start to add pressure to your inflation question, right?
Absolutely.
So you drop production 3 to 5%. Because you've made these policy changes, well, then all of a sudden you're going to have an inflation issue because those prices are going to shoot back up. And so there has to be kind of an easy path here to kind of weave through the middle of that. And so I expect a little more moderation than what exactly it feels like is being said in some of those comments.
Yeah, but the ag sector is going to have to educate if he is indeed the president. They can't lay low on this.
No, they're going to have to be out in front. 100%.
I agree.
RFK Jr. and Trump teaming up was not on my bingo card for 2024. I'm just letting you know that right now. It was not on my bingo card. But Jim, some of the stuff that he does talk about, this, why are we focused so much on processed food? Let's get back to healthy fats. Let's get back to something. I mean, he brings up some good points. And then there's some things that are so far out there. And you're like, what universe are you living in right now? And so, yes, it goes back to that education piece of it. Any other What the Sigma moments, Jim, from this week that you want to talk about before we go into the next segment?
Other than if you're as old as I am, when you go to Colorado Springs, the altitude is going to get you bad.
Yeah, I guess you were sick. So what did you have?
It zaps your energy. So once I found out that they have oxygen in cans, I was okay.
Okay.
So what was the downfall?
I didn't know this.
I couldn't drink alcohol. Yeah. Because that really affects you. You want to take 2 drinks in altitude versus 2 drinks normal. It's like 4 or 5 drinks.
Really?
Yeah.
Difference. The wine demand has been hit this week. Your trip out to Colorado.
But I love the area. I was at the Broadmoor and it's just simply beautiful. So.
Okay, let's go into you want to go into our last segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
We need to wrap things up. But next week, I am going on a work trip with James. Okay, next weekend. And I'm not used to this. And
is it his work or your work?
No, his. I'm going on a work trip with James, right?
Okay.
And so I said, like, what are we doing? Well, we're going to be in Lake Tahoe. And I said, okay, well, what am I doing? He goes, your only job while you're there is to go with me to dinner. And I just want you and Jim and Clinton, I just want you guys to know one thing. I am not arm candy material. If you expect me to go into a dinner.
Trophy wife. You're not a trophy wife.
If you expect me to go to dinner and keep my mouth shut, you are sadly mistaken and you don't know me well enough. And so I just want you to know that I'm not sure this is going to work out because I don't know what I'm going to do for a couple of days. And apparently my only job is to go to dinner and I'm not arm candy. So I don't even know what to do.
I think you'll be all right. I bet you'll be all right. Although he may be halfway through the night go like, hey, want to meet me back later? I'll just catch up with you later. If he says that, then
I've never been to Lake
drinks at altitude.
I've never been to Lake Tahoe. We don't go on.
Check the altitude. Exactly.
I'm a little nervous about that now that we had that conversation. We don't leave the girls very often, but it's over a weekend. And that's just what I'm telling you. That's what I've come to realize. I'm not arm candy material, and I'm not sure how this is going to work out. I don't know.
Well, yesterday was for us on the 31st, Halloween, obviously. And so my oldest did not dress up for the first time this year. And I think, when kids get to a certain age, as a junior in high school, that's fine. Yeah. Last year wasn't really dressing up, just kind of hung out with his friends. But, you kind of get to a certain age, it kind of ends. And so, I think that was a little bit sad. But I did make sure I had the candy tax on when the other two got home. And so starting to go through their bag, and my daughter, she pulls out she's like, "Oh, I got the full size candy bars." And so Mary Beth's like, "Well, where did you get that?" She goes, "Oh, from the rich house." So, I'm just happy to know that, those moments and impressions are still alive and well for our children. But, I was going to ask you guys, what's your favorite kind of candy? Like, if you got Halloween, what are you sorting through the bag looking for?
Full bar Snickers and Hershey's.
Say that again?
The full size Snickers and Hershey bars.
Okay.
Either the walnuts or whatever, almonds or whatever. But
Right,
I will insert this. When we got too old to dress up on Halloween as a group in Southern Illinois, we used to throw corn on the roofs of the homes and then run. You never did do that?
I've never heard anything more Southern Illinois than what you just said right there.
We would get gangs and they would come out, we'd laugh, and some of them would get mad, and the madder they got, the happier we were.
Then you're going to be in their gutters. You're going to be growing corn plants up there all spring. That's hilarious.
And I'm in the Missouri River bottoms, okay? So the bar is low. Okay, real quick, before we go, I don't have anything else. Real quick before we go.
You didn't tell me what your candy was.
Oh, I don't eat a lot of candy. Believe me, I eat a lot of other crap.
Really?
Like
No
candy.
sweet tooth.
I guess Almond Joy would be my go-to.
like
I'm a
Almond
coconut
Joys,
person. But the girls, they're gonna be ticked when they get home from school, and that entire bag of candy, we have a lot. It's going in the trash. I'm sorry, we don't need that temptation. I'm that parent, I guess you can say, but we don't need that crap.
Come on,
They had
Tyne.
donuts this morning, so it's not like we're healthy, okay? But the
Are we going to get into what I got from a fan of mine this week?
Yes, real quick. This is what we're ending on. Real quick.
Go.
I just want to play. Apparently, Jim set it up. You set it up. It's you. It's
Well, a fan of mine sent me a video, a musical video that they put together about me. And it was interesting.
Roll that musical blues.
One-eyed host with seasoned charm, he won't steer you into harm. That's the fun with every talk. You'll be up, don't need to balk. Jim Wiesemeyer knows the way. Gonna brighten up your day. Tune in, listen up to hear news and views that make it clear.
That's the game.
Jim Wiesemeyer knows the way. Gonna brighten up your day. Tune in, listen up and hear news and views that make it clear.
So on
That's
that note,
catchy. That's catchy.
Now, is
I
that
think you better
not
get
bad?
royalties on
I
that.
like the beat. I kind of like the beat.
sure it was an AI tool because that's what I'm sure it was an AI tool. But Jim, I can tell you what. Apparently, I don't have any fans because I've never received anything like that. That is just a
Got
gift
no
that keeps on
personalized
giving.
music.
This is my theme song now. My theme song. I
Oh my
finally have.
gosh.
And if anyone needs a theme song, it is the OG
Yeah.
Jim Wiesemeyer.
Jimmy
That is a
Dubs.
perfect note to end on.
Love
A
it.
perfect note to end on. Thank you for joining us for this edition of
Anytime.
Unscripted.
Anytime.
May have to have you back on during the election. It's getting spicy. It's going to be
Yeah,
interesting
we'll,
to see what happens.
2
on
weeks
Tuesday.
later when we get results, we'll have you back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm there. Have fun with your husband, Tyne.
Yeah, good luck in Tahoe.
Yeah, I'll text you a picture. Let you
Yeah,
know.
please do. Please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see
All
you
right.
later.
Bye, guys.
And bye, everybody.
See ya. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us. You can dive into more of Unscripted on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and listen to it anywhere podcasts are found. I'm Clinton Griffiths.
And I'm Tyne Morgan. From all of us here at Farm Journal, keep it real as you live your life unscripted.
Unscripted is a production of Farm Journal Studios, where no one grows alone.
Tune in, listen up and hear news and views that make it clear.